this is your mentor Seema Charani from KYMS Academy, and I welcome you back to this platform of learning and knowledge. Previous year questions CAT 23 slot 1 series is going on, and out of the 4 RCs, we have discussed 2 RCs, and today we are going to discuss RC3. So let's get started, and together we make it happen. An anonymous quote: if you do not sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. In simple terms, this quote says that if you do not sacrifice your comfort zone and some sleep to achieve good scores in your examination, you will sacrifice those good scores. Beta, everything worthwhile in life takes effort to achieve, otherwise it is not worthwhile. It is a hard truth, but a truth nonetheless. So let's have a look on today's RC. Now today's RC is not an easy one, it's a moderate. But if you are going to go for certain keywords or indicators, I'm pretty sure you will be able to understand this RC. So I'm going to read this passage paragraph by paragraph, and then we come down to the questions and solve them. 50 years after its publication in English in 1972, and just a year since Marshall Sahlins himself died, we may ask, why did his essay Original Afro Society have such an impact, and how has it fared since? Now, simple in this line, we are saying that there was a person by the name Sahlins, and he wrote an essay by the name Original Affluent Society in 1972, and maybe after 50 years he passed away. Now here basically the question has been raised that this particular essay has a lot of impact. Okay, why this essay has a lot of impact in today's contemporary world, and whether it is relevant or not. Sahlins' principal argument was simple but counterintuitive. Earlier also I told you that any sentence or any word which is given after but, which is a transition word, that is something that you actually need to read. And any sentence that is given after colon, obviously you should read that part. Before being driven into marginal environments by colonial powers, hunter-gatherers or foragers were not engaged in a desperate struggle for meager survival. So now this line says that before the intervention of the colonial powers, the hunter-gatherers and the foragers, okay, they were not struggling for survival. It means they were very happy. They were happy-go-lucky kind of people. They were not struggling for their survival, and because their needs were less, therefore they did not want to work hard even. So हम basically they did not want to maximize productivity. Why? Because their needs were less, but they wanted to have some leisure time for themselves. Okay. And these people, they have been compared with the people in agriculture industrial societies, क्योंकि वहाँ पर लोगों को बहुत ज़्यादा effort डालना पड़ता है. They actually want to maximize production, और उनको लगता है कि नहीं, we want to earn profit. But these were the people, hunters and foragers, those who were not struggling for the survival, and they were very happy with themselves because they had a lot of leisure time, और उस leisure time में they could have done what they wanted to do. Hunters keep bankers' hours. Now, basically, in this sentence, hunters have been compared to bankers. Why? Because the bankers hote, they have, they do the job from 10 to 5, and they have the time for themselves also. So basically, we can say that in this sentence, there is a figurative speech by the name metaphor which has been used. क्योंकि यहाँ पर hunters को bankers से compare किया गया है. And you must be knowing that last year in CAT 2024, there was a question on figurative speech or literary devices. Literary devices क्या-क्या होते हैं? Metaphor, simile, allegory, irony. तो ये सब आपको पता होना चाहिए. Okay? Refusing to maximize, many were more concerned with games of chance than with chances of gain. A very beautiful statement. Okay? Now here the author wants to say that the hunter-gatherers or the foragers, they actually refuse to maximize productivity. उनको ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं चाहिए था, but they were simply looking for the games of chance. Here, games of chance, we can say that they wanted to pursue their hobbies, and or maybe the area of interest, gambling, or maybe any other social game. Then with chances of game. अब chances of game का meaning यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है? कि they were not worrying about the food, they were not worrying about the hunting. They simply wanted to have the leisure time, and in that leisure time, they wanted to pursue their hobbies. Clear? Now, here there is one more figure of speech. As you can see, games of chance, then with chances of game. So if here I say games is x and chances y, then here chances has become y and it is x. So basically this is an example of chiasmus. Okay, so there can be a question on figure of speech this year as well, so you need to know certain literary devices. I hope this is understood. The so-called Neolithic revolution, rather than improving life, imposed a harsher work regime and set in motion the long history of growing inequality. So now here the author is saying Neolithic revolution means what? Neolithic revolution here stands for modern life. तो बेसिकली आज के जो पीपल है व्हाट दे आर डूइंग, दे वांट टू improve their, I mean rather than like improving their life, they are going for harsher work. Harsher work in what sense? They are working for long hours and they want to maximize productivity, and therefore obviously it leads to growing inequality as well. I hope the things are clear. तो बेसिकली यहाँ पर मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या है? मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट यहाँ पर ये है दैट here Silence is saying that the hunters and the foragers, they are very happy with less and they do not want to work more, and they are quite content with that thing because they have certain leisure time. Now moreover, foragers had other options. Now here the author is saying that it was not like that the foragers did not have any alternative. No, they had other options as well. The contemporary heads of Tanzania, who had long been surrounded, now basically this has been given as an example, surrounded by farmers, knew they had alternatives and rejected them. It means the foragers, they knew this thing that they had farmers around them. So had they wanted, they could have done farming as well. But no, they refused doing farming, and they just wanted to, do less work. Okay, because farming actually requires a lot of hard work. To silence, this showed that foragers are not simply examples of human diversity or victimhood, but something more profound. So basically यहाँ पर वो कहना क्या चाह रहे हैं कि जो foragers थे, तो if they are not working for long hours, it doesn't mean कि वो किसी चीज के victim थे, ऐसा नहीं भी था. But the thing is very different and very profound and deep. So what is that profound thing? They demonstrated that societies make real choices. Now this is something really very important. तो उन्होंने बेसिकली डेमोन्स्ट्रेट क्या किया दैट सोसाइटीज दे मेक द चॉइसेस. ओके, culture, a way of living oriented around a distinctive set of values, manifests a fundamental principle of collective self-determination. So basically through these 2 or 3 lines the author is trying to say that the foragers, author wants to say the societies, they make the real choices, and this in turn create culture or values. Clear? But the point of the essay is not so much the empirical validity of the data. The real interest for most readers, after all, is not in foragers either today or in the Paleolithic. Earlier also I told you that whatever sentence is given between the 2 hyphens, actually this is something that you can always skim. Okay, so again, but is given contrasting element. And now here the author is saying that the essay is not about whether the that data is valid or not. No, the question is not about this thing. Rather, it's conceptual challenge to contemporary economic life and bourgeois individualism. So basically, through this essay, the author is trying to challenge the contemporary economic life and bourgeois individualism. What do you mean by this thing? Bourgeois basically means middle class, and these are the people normally who go for profit making. Okay, the empirical served a philosophical and political project, a thought experiment, and stimulus to the imagination of possibilities. So basically here this thing has been challenged कि जो हमारी modern economic life है where we maximize productivity, but apart from these things, okay, there are so many other possibilities also. So this is what has been communicated through this paragraph. Now, when I'm coming down to the 5th paragraph, and this paragraph is actually very important. It is little tough to understand, but then we are going to break down this paragraph in order to understand it very clearly. With is title nod. Titles nod का मतलब होता है when you nod your head. तो basically you are in agreement with somebody. Okay, आप किसी के साथ agree करना चाहते हो. Okay, or maybe you have the same school of thought, so you are nodding this way, right? So with its title Not Toward the Affluent Society, 1958, economist John Kenneth Galbraith famously skeptical. Now, what is the meaning of skeptical? When you are being doubtful towards something or somebody. Portrait of America's post-war prosperity and inequality and dripping with new left contempt for consumerism. अब इसमें आपको समझना क्या है? Basically, जो गैल्ब्रे था, he also wrote an essay by the name Affluent Society. सैलियंस के ऐसे का नाम क्या था? ओरिजिनल एफ्रिन सोसाइटी. एंड एफ्रिन सोसाइटी वाज रिटन बाय केनेथ गैल्ब्रेथ. और बेसिकली ही वाज बीइंग स्केप्टिकल और डाउटफुल टुवर्ड्स द पोस्ट वॉर अमेरिकाज प्रोस्पेरिटी. तो वॉर के बाद जो अमेरिका की प्रोस्पेरिटी और इक्वालिटी थी वो उसको क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा था. एंड ड्रिपिंग विद न्यू लेफ्ट. नाउ न्यू लेफ्ट हियर स्टैंड्स फॉर मार्क्सिस्ट थ्योरी. ओके, कंटेंट फॉर कंज्यूमरिज्म. सो बेसिकली गैल्ब्रेथ he criticized consumerism. In short, you can understand this way. The original African society brought this critical perspective to bear on the contemporary world. Now, this skepticism, this criticism was brought forth by the original affluent society. और ये किसने लिखा था? It was written by Salins. So basically, Salins also he belongs to the same school of thought. जहाँ पर वो भी क्या कर रहा था? That he brought this criticism or skepticism, okay, on the contemporary world में modern life की तरफ इस चीज को उसमें लेकर आया. तो basically, the Salins he was being supportive of the criticism, okay, of Galbraith. It did so through the classic anthropological move of showing that radical alternatives to the reader's lives really exist. Now, here this line says that there are so many completely different alternatives which are there in society. If the capitalist world seeks wealth through ever greater material production to meet infinitely expensive desires, foraging societies follow the Zen road to affluence not by getting more but by wanting less. Now again here the contrasting point has been shown between the capitalist world and the foraging societies. तो capitalist world क्या चाह रहे थे? Obviously they were going for greater material production because वो बहुत ज़्यादा materialistic थे and they had a lot of desires. Okay, because they had a lot of desires, therefore they wanted to work for more hours because they believed in earning profit. On the contrary, foraging societies, see, they were simply following the Zen road to affluence. Now, basically, what do you understand by Zen road to affluence? These were the people who were not maximizing production. They did not want to earn profit. They were very happy with the kind of life they were living. तो बेसिकली एफ्लुएंस जो होता है, रिचनेस जो होती है, वो सिर्फ आपको पैसे से या प्रोडक्टिविटी से ही नहीं आती है. आप कितने हैप्पी हो, हाउ मच कंटेंट एंड सेटिस्फाइड यू आर विद योर लाइफ. Obviously, that also takes you to the path of affluence. Okay, so basically, they were not wanting more; they were wanting less. If it seems that foragers have been left behind by progress, this is due only to the ethnocentric self-congratulation of the West. अब आपको इतने हैवी टर्म समझने का जरूरत नहीं है. बेसिकली जस्ट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड कि यहाँ पर इस लाइन में ऑथर क्या बोलना चाह रहा है. नाउ because foragers they were not working for long hours, they were not maximizing production, they did not want more of profit, and they were quite happy with the life they were having. They were having the leisure time and they were very happy with that thing. तो अगर आप उनको ये समझ रहे हैं that they are lagging behind in terms of progress, और आप उनको थोड़ा सा मान रहे हैं कि वो they are the people who do not want to earn more and they are lagging far behind with the people those who are actually working hard. तो basically जो ये thought process था, ये thought process किसका था? This was the thought process of the western people जो खुद किसको maximize करते थे? Production को. तो they felt that way. Okay, rather than accumulate material goods, these societies are guided by other values, leisure, mobility, and above all freedom. So yet again the author is saying the same thing, that the foragers they were more concerned with leisure, mobility, and freedom rather than working for long hours and worrying about the food. Obviously, they just simply wanted to have some me time. जो आज का हमारा me time का concept चल रहा है, maybe they wanted to have their me time. Okay. Viewed in today's context, of course, not every aspect of the essay has aged well. तो यहाँ पर author बोल रहा है कि yes, every aspect of the essay. Which essay? ओरिजिनल एफ्रिकन सोसाइटी, तो ऑब्वियसली वो हर तरह से ठीक नहीं था, मे बी सम फ्लॉज वर देयर. सो व्हाट वर दोस फ्लॉज? While acknowledging the violence of colonialism, racism, and dispossession, it doesn't thematize them as heavily as we might today. So maybe author did not take into consideration the violence of colonialism, racism, and dispossession at, as the people are taking them today. Okay, so हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर जो पीपल है, ऑब्वियसली जो ऐसे था, उन्होंने इस चीज को इतना इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं दिया जितना इंपॉर्टेंस आज के लोग उनको देते हैं. Rebuking evolutionary anthropologists for treating present day foragers as left behind by progress, it too can succumb to the temptation to use them as proxies for the Paleolithic. So now here second thing is that the author is criticizing those anthropologists who treated the present day foragers as left behind by progress. So now here author is saying that the people are using the foragers of present in order to understand the foragers of Paleolithic age. Yet these characteristics should not distract us from appreciating some. No matter how many flaws this essay has, then we should not forget that obviously Salin's work, okay, his essay actually it has achieved a lot of acclamation also and appreciation. Effort to show that if we want to conjure new possibilities, we need to learn about actually inhabitable worlds. तो क्यों उसके ऐसे को appreciate किया गया? Because he says that apart from the possibility that is prevalent today, there are so many different and good possibilities that people have, and they should pursue those possibilities. I hope the things are clear. Okay, so now as we've understood the passage, let us move on to the questions and solve them one by one. We can infer that Salin's main goal in writing his essay was to. Beta, when you are going for a certain question, you need to recall that what is the main goal of Salin. So Salin का main goal क्या था? That the foragers they were different from the contemporary world. In what sense? That people in today's era, they maximize production, they want to earn profit, okay, and they are not having a lot of leisure time. On the contrary, जो foragers or hunters थे, their needs were less, their desires were less, therefore they were working less. And why they were working less? Because they wanted to have the leisure time. So basically this is the main goal. Of whatever like option you are picking, you have to pick the option which is which aligns with the main goal of the Salins. Highlight the fact that while we started off as a fairly contented egalitarian people, we have progressively degenerated into materialism. So obviously, according to the main goal of Salins, this is not the point that we have progressively degenerated into materialism. No. So whatever goal I told you, basically this might be right in a way according to the passage, but according to the goal of Salins, this is not correct. So this can be eliminated. Put forth the view that despite egalitarian origins, economic progress brings greater inequality and social hierarchies. Again, this is something which is there in the passage, but again it is not aligning with the main goal of Salins. This can be eliminated again. Hold a mirror to an exclusive society. Okay, now here exclusive society stands for contemporary society. Society that maximizes production with examples of other communities. Other communities here stands for hunters or foragers that have chosen successfully to be non-materialistic. So exclusive society किसको importance देती थी? Materialism को. And these people, they were not giving importance to materialism. So I think this is actually aligning with the main goal of Salins. Therefore, this is the right answer. Counter Galbraith's pessimistic view of the inevitability of a capitalist trajectory for economic growth. So here, simply by reading the word counter, okay, I could easily eliminate this option. The reason is कि यहाँ पर जो Salin's का main goal था, it was not, it was not countering the Galbraith's pessimistic view. In fact, it supported it. Okay, so this can be eliminated. So what is going to be the answer? It is 3. The author mentions Tanzania's Hadza community to illustrate. Now, if you remember, I am going to take you back to that paragraph where this example was given. Here you see. In the second paragraph, now to answer that particular question, the range is this particular paragraph. Okay, you cannot go out of the range of answering any question. अब यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं example of heads of Tanzania is given. और ऐसा क्यों दिया गया था? Because they had other options as well, because they were surrounded by the farmers, and had they wanted they could have gone for farming, but they did not choose to go for farming, rather they rejected फार्मिंग. ओके, ऐसा नहीं था कि उनको पता नहीं था, ऑल्टरनेटिव्स के बारे में उनको पता था, बट ये जाना ही नहीं चाहते थे. ऑलराइट, क्लियर? सो नाउ ऑप्शंस आर that forager communities' lifestyles derive not from ignorance about alternatives but from their own choice. So I can say that simply by reading this first option, and it is very much going with the second paragraph, and this is what we read just now. So yes, this is the answer. But then let us verify the other options as well. How two vastly different ways of living and working were able to coexist in proximity for centuries. आपको ये राइट लग सकता है क्योंकि हम वास्टली डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ लिविंग की बात कर रहे थे. दोज पीपल हु मैक्सिमाइज प्रोडक्शन एंड द हंटर्स, दे वर नॉट मैक्सिमाइजिंग प्रोडक्शन. तो वास्टली डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ लिविंग तो थे, बट देन it was not the part of that paragraph where this example has been given. Okay, so this particular option is going out of the range of answering the question, therefore I cannot take it as an answer. How pre-agrarian societies, we are now talking about the pre-agrarian societies in the passage, so simply by reading this word I can eliminate this again. Okay, fourth, that hunter-gatherer communities' subsistence level techniques equip them to survive well into contemporary times. Nowhere in the passage we talked about the techniques. Okay, so therefore it can be eliminated. Answer is going to be 1. The author of the passage criticizes Salin's essay for its. अब आप देख सकते हो यहाँ पर author criticize something. So obviously Salis did not criticize, or Salis' essay did not criticize anything. Authors criticized Salis' essay. Now, where did we see the criticism part? We saw it in the last paragraph. Remember that this essay had certain flaws, and those 2 flaws were that obviously the present day foragers, they were treating them as they left behind, right? And the first was that they did not take into consideration properly the negative aspects of colonialism, racism, and dispossession. Okay, so these were the 2 things because of which the author criticized Salin's essay. Outdated values regarding present day foragers versus ancient foraging communities. We are not talking about the outdated values, therefore it can be eliminated. Failure to supplement his thesis with robust empirical data. This thing was there, but not in the last paragraph. Okay, again, this can be eliminated, and this was not the reason because of which the author criticized Salin's essay. Critique of anthropologists who disparage the choices of foragers in today's society. Of course, this is not given over there in that paragraph. Cursory treatment of the effects of racism and colonialism on societies. Just now only I showed that particular line, and they did not take into consideration, proper consideration. So basically, they went for the cursory treatment. Now, what is the meaning of cursory treatment? Very carelessly. तो बेटा आपको यहाँ पर समझ में आया that vocab is never out of the fashion. Okay, vocabulary कभी ना कभी author दे देता है. तो if you do not know the meaning of cursory, it might be possible you won't be able to understand the meaning of this statement. But then you should have a good command over vocabulary if you are writing CAT exam. Okay, so answer is going to be the 4th one. Let us move on to the last question now. The author of the passage mentions Galbraith, the affluent society too. Now, the essay written by Salins was original affluent society, and the essay written by Galbraith was affluent society. अब आपको पता है why the author brought into picture the essay of Galbraith because he was being skeptical. Okay, he was being skeptical towards what America's post-war prosperity and equality, and obviously they criticize consumerism. Consumerism means materialism. Okay, and for this reason, the name of the essay of Galbraith came into the picture, and who supported him? Stalin supported him. So now you see. Contrast the materialist nature of contemporary growth past with the pacifist content ways of living among the foragers. Here the word contrast is being wrong because actually it is not contrast, it actually supported. Okay, तो वो support करने के लिए आया था और materialist nature contemporary growth class with the pacific content ways of living among the foragers, this was not the thing, or because contrasting word is there, therefore it is going to be the wrong answer. Document the influence of Galbraith's cynical views on modern consumerism or Sally's analysis of prehistoric societies. Now, this option is going to, it is going to appear very, very right. The reason is because all the things are mentioned over here, barring one thing, which is document. So, obviously, it was not documenting the influence, nobody documented it. So, therefore, it is going to be wrong. Just because of this word, I cannot take this as answer. Show how Galbraith's theories refute. Again, refute word is given. It is wrong. It has to be support. Okay? This is wrong. Show how Salin's views complemented Galbraith's criticism of the consumerism and inequality of contemporary society. So here, what is the meaning of complemented? Obviously, the views of both the authors were going together, and Salin's he actually supported Galbraith's criticism towards the America's post-war inequality. Clear? So I hope things are clear, and the answer is going to be 4 over here. So now we are done with today's RC. So this brings me to the end of this passage, and if you have any doubt, you can always visit our website and give us a call on this number. And if you're liking our video, please do share and comment and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.